Hello, hello, my beautiful people. It's your girl Shonna Etienne with the Virtual Book Club, and we are still on the book Conspiracy, Counsel the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. I have to say, we're almost done, guys. This book is almost complete. It has been a pleasure reading this book. After today, we have two more chapters of this book. For those of you guys who are new to the Virtual Book Club, we are on Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. This book has been phenomenal. I am so sad that we are coming to the end of this book. We have tomorrow and Friday, and the book will be complete. But I have to say this book has helped me tremendously with how I started to shift my mind with my boys, how I started to lower my voice with my boys and not be so stern, because I have a better understanding of the male ego fragility. And that's really important that I discuss that. I know a lot of guys don't like to hear this, but it's what's true is true. And there are a lot of guys who their egos are very fragile. They're very fragile. And I think if more women will understand the fragility of a man's ego, we might be better equipped to know how to deal with them. And we might be more mindful with our words when we hit below the belt. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, I just started thinking about that because this book has been tremendous and helping me to see things through another lens. So I'm really grateful and thankful for that. So I want to welcome you guys all here. I see Charles and Sonia is joining me. Welcome, guys. I see Jade. So Jade, hey, peace, Jade. We don't see you too much, but thank you so much for tuning in, Jade. We have Benisa. Hey sis, how you doing? We have my brother Nick Johnson. What's up, Nicholas? How you guys are doing? Today, we talking about black men on college campuses. Whew. I have to say, a lot of what he talks about in this chapter before I get started, I already knew. But you know when you read something, it just does something different for you. Like for example, when I was in college, and someone else has to tell me if this has been your experience as well. Nick Johnson, I know this has been your experience because we went to the same university. So I know it has been your experience. But and what I was going to say was when I was in college, I think it was 3% of our college campuses were black. I never paid attention to how many black men were there versus black females. I never paid attention to how many black people graduated versus dropped out of college. I never paid attention to that because by the time I got into college, I think that I have been conditioned during those ages to think for myself only and not worry about what was going on with other people. So now that I am older and now that I have more of a liberation approach to how I view the world and how I interact with the world, I'm more knowledgeable and more aware of those things. But as a kid, I didn't think about those things. So I say that to you guys because that's what we're going to be discussing in this chapter. Many of us have kids in college and we need to hear this stuff because I think sometimes as parents, we don't always stay connected with our children in college, and we tend to think to some extent that once they get to college, they're good, they got it. And we don't understand that college is a different world for our kids. So especially when it comes to our black boys, I think we have to approach the whole idea of college a lot differently with them. And I think we have to be available for them so we can ensure their graduation. And that's what we're going to get into today. So I thank you guys all for joining on. I am going to go ahead and share the video. There go my godson. He's always tuning in. I love my godson. I know I haven't been the best godmother on earth, especially since, I've been pursuing my career and it's pushed a lot of people to the wayside. But now that he's older, he's an adult. I mean, Malik, how old are you now? I'm terrible. I know my age. I always forget his age. But we went through a lot with him. And now that he is an adult, he reaches out to me and I really do love that about him. And especially since I've been so absent on the scene for so much, but he remembers in his heart all that I have done for him and all I have been there for him. And he still has like that sense of security with me. And that makes me feel so good because he's an adult now. And I really love that. He says he's 24. My godson is 24. I am a terrible godmother, but you know, Maliki, I love you from the bottom of my heart. And you know, I would do anything, absolutely anything for you. But you know, it's time for you to grow up. Time for you to be a man. So that's awesome that he tunes in every day and he's listening because he's learning as well. So Jade is saying she's learning how to parent a 15-year-old. Jade, I'm with you. I have a son who's turning 14, a daughter who's turning 20, and a 4-year-old, Jade. So I get you. Let's get started, guys. So African Americans hold the unfortunate distinction of being the only group in America to have more males in prison than college. This is the truth. We have approximately 1.5 African American males in prison. And this is back in 1986. I imagine that number is higher. So in 1986, the statistics were 1.5 million African American men in prison. As a mom, that makes my stomach sick. As a woman who has led aging out programs for males aging out of the foster care system, strictly males, and some of my guys follow me too, but because of confidentiality, we don't disclose if we're on here. But my boys follow me. They're still connected to me. The fact that there's so many young men going into prison, it just makes me sick to my stomach, especially when they're going into prison because of petty crimes. So here we are. We have more males in prison than we do college campuses. We have more males in prison than we do at a high school graduation. Why? Why? He says there will only be 14 males attending college. What we're talking about, if we're looking at it of a population of per 100 people that go to college, he said there will be 14 males attending college in comparison to 26 females. 33% of the 77% graduating. Of the 14 African American males that go to college with a college graduation rate of 33%, approximately 5 of these students will graduate from college. Out of the 14 that go to college, approximately 5 will end up graduating. As a mother of 2 boys, that scares me. And I had to sit back and I had to look at my own life. And I had to say to the people that I know in my circle, of the males, how many of them actually completed college? And that number is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Many of them have entered into colleges, but more of them have dropped out than completed. And that number is embarrassing. Now I know the argument. I know the argument because I can hear people right now. I can hear you right through my screen. I get it. I can hear what you guys are saying. College isn't everything. Everybody doesn't have to go to college. We put too much emphasis on college. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But here's the thing. I called my son into the kitchen today. And I said to my son, why do I want you to go to college? And he made his little jokes, so that's what 14-year-olds do, right? He made his little joke. But then he came back and he said, so I can have a fallback plan if my business doesn't work out. See, my kids, they're growing up in a home where both their parents are entrepreneurs. My husband has been in business for himself well over 25 years. A combination of us together well over 30 years in business for ourselves. Without working for anybody else, without a part-time job, without a full-time job, without depending on anybody else to pay us. We have been in business for ourselves for over a combination of 30 years, maybe 32 to 35 years by ourselves. So my children are being raised in a household where owning is the expectation. But the reality is running a business is not easy. So I say to my son, I say to my daughter, and when my 4-year-old gets of age, I'll be saying it to him too. Go to college so that you can at least have a backup plan. See, if you're going to have to depend on, and I hate to go there, but y'all know, I'm going to be real. If you're going to have to depend on the white man to give you the job, at least have a damn degree. That's how I see it. At least put yourself in a better bracket, a better income bracket, a better possibility bracket to obtain promotions and everything like that. At least if you're going to work for the man, if you're going to be on a corporate plantation, at least better your chances by going to college. But something is happening when our black males are not even making it to college. That's enough for us to look at. What is happening? See, there are people that I know who are brilliant black males. When you listen to them, you're like, damn, this brother is educated. But for some reason, this brother has never made it to college. And many of them, like I said when I first started, ego fragility. Male ego fragility. Many of them, they will tell you that college is not important and it don't matter. But at the end of the day, I don't want my sons to have that mindset. I want my sons to be owners. We're owners, they should be owners. That's how I look at it. But at the end of the day, I don't want them to think that they don't need college. None of us need college. Let's put it that way. But as long as you're going to be in this world, like my grandmother says, this is a white man's world. And I know people don't like to hear that, but hey, the truth is what it is. This is a white man's world. And as long as you're going to be in this world, you better know how to compete. You better know how to compete, because our black males are losing by the truckload. By the truckload. They're not graduating high school. They're not graduating college. They are entering into prisons. They are taking menial jobs. They are having children with multiple mothers. Our black males are losing. Absolutely losing. Losing. And there's something to be said about that. He says, contrary to the popular belief, one of the major reasons why African American students don't graduate is not because of the lack of academic preparation, but, check this out guys, but the lack of financial resources. For some strange reason, many students that receive financial aid receive less with each passing year. Why is that? Why is that? So they make it to college and they have a great financial aid package. And every year that financial aid package gets less and less and less. And check this out. Check this out. The minute it gets less, whoever they is, they tell you to take out a federal student loan to compensate for the difference. It's almost as though they want you to come out in debt. Right? It's almost as though they don't want to pay your way, even though they know they set many of us up for failure. Even though they know our high schools were not of par. They were not at par. Even though they know when many of us, not all of us, but when many of us get into college, we are behind our white peers, we are behind our Asian peers, our Indian peers. We have been set up for failure. And then on top of that, we are convinced to take out student loans. Student loans. Now, you know we don't have the resources to go to college, but you feed us student loans. And what happens when you don't graduate college? You think those student loans go away? No, baby, they follow you for the rest of your life and you got to pay them, because there's one debt that you can never get rid of, and that is your student loan debt. It follows you for the rest of your life. Where am I going with this? Where am I going with this? I think we all have to start doing a better job with preparing our children for college. I have a daughter who's in college at Ivy League University at that. And let me tell you something. I told myself a long time ago that I refuse to have her graduate with college debt. I got college debt and I'm still paying for it. I got college debt. I said I refuse to have her graduate with college debt. But how many of us are educated on 529 plans? How many of us? How many of us know about college savings plans that we can take out in order to help our children get through college? Not many of us know about this. And if we do know about this, not many of us take advantage of this. When my daughter hit 3 or 4 years old, I took out a 529 plan on her. Yes, I did. Absolutely. And I sent $50 per paycheck when I was working for the government into her college savings plan. And they invested that money and that money grew. By the time she got into college, I had money saved not only in that plan, but in my checking account, my savings account, so that I can make sure she did not have to take out a college loan. See, some people might say that was easy for you, Vashana, because you own your own business. But what you fail to realize that I started this way before I owned the business. Every income tax return that I received, I banked. And I just saved it. And I saved it. And I saved it because I knew it was going to come a time when she was going to go into college. That savings account has paid for her difference in college where she does not have to take out a loan. And that 529 plan, that college savings plan that I have on her, I have rolled over into my oldest son's name. So now it's continuously growing in his name. And now I just add money into that account every pay period as well so I can bulk it up. And if he gets scholarships, guess what's going to happen to that plan? It's going to roll over to the 4-year-old's plan. You understand what I'm saying? And many of us, we don't take this strategy. So by the time our children get to college, they're struggling. They're struggling. They have to compete in an environment that many of their schools have not gotten them prepared to compete in. Not only do they have to compete in that environment, they have to survive. Now, I don't know how many of us on the book club have gone to college. But let me tell you something. Oh, let me rephrase that. How many of us have gone away to college and lived on a dorm? College kids are poor. They have no money. I remember there was times when I needed to have studied, but instead I was working. There was a time when I held 3 jobs when in college because I absolutely needed the money. So when this kind of pressure is placed on our children, whether male or female, they're more likely to drop out. It's too much. It's too much because they can't survive. They can't make it. And if you have not been in college, then you're not going to understand what I'm talking about. But for all of you guys who have went away to college and lived on a campus, you guys know how hard it is to survive. And many of our parents are not in positions to deposit money in our accounts every 2 weeks or every month, whatever the case is, so we can have spending money. So what he's saying is because of that, many of our black males are not graduating. Here's another reason why our black males are not graduating when they get to college. Another reason for the low graduation rate among African American students is feeling of loneliness and a lack of belonging on many campuses, especially white schools. A feeling of loneliness. When I first started out this book club tonight, I said to you guys, when I was in university, there was 3% of black people in that entire campus. 3%. Our only sense of belonging was the Black Student Union and maybe some frat and sorority parties on the campuses. That was our sense of belonging. And it is a lonely, lonely world, especially if you're not one of those people who know how to blend in or who know how to associate with those who are white, Asian, or whatever. If you're not one of those people who have been exposed to a multicultural environment, you're going to have an even more difficult time. And I think for my brother and I, and Nick, you have to chime in on this, but I think I can speak for myself, but we went to the same school, the same high school, and the same college. He's not my biological brother, but he's my brother. I think we could both attest to this, that we went to a high school that was predominantly Albanian and Italian. So we learned how to mix and mingle among those of other races, other cultures, whatever the case is. So by the time we got to Oswego, since we were already used to being the only black kids in high school, by the time we got to Oswego, we already knew how to adapt. But here's the children that I know had a difficult time adapting when I was in college. The ones who have never left their environment. The ones who have grew up in a hood and they never left the hood. And when they got up to college, being around all these white people, it was homesickening. It was a situation where you wanted to go home and be around your black sisters and brothers. To be in a university that is all white and not know how to blend in because you didn't have exposure to multicultures, that's serious. And when I think about it, those of us who was able to blend in, those of us who had friends outside of just being black, we were the ones that were successful in college. We were the ones that everyone knew us. We got more help from the teachers. We were able to blend in easily. We was able to discipline our schedule. We had more friends to study with. We were the ones that were successful in completing college. So when Dr. Kunjufu says that it's a feeling of loneliness, he's not lying. He's not lying. But the research also says that black males, especially, see my brother, I see him, he says very true. He knows. He knows. And then listen, check this out. For those of us who grew up in inner cities and didn't have white people around us or didn't go to white schools, am I lying, Nicholas? We were the ones that had criminal records. We were the ones that were targeted by the police departments. We were the ones that were selling drugs on a university. We were the ones that had to drop out of school and we stayed in the town to sell drugs to the college universities. Isn't that the truth? For those of us who had more experience around white people, we were more successful. And that's what I talked about a couple of book sessions ago. I'm talking about having to shift. As a black woman, I am so sick and tired of having to shift all the time. And when I say shift, I'm talking about shift to make white people feel comfortable, shift to make black people feel comfortable, shifting all the time, shifting to make males feel comfortable, shifting all the time. That shifting is very uncomfortable. We have to be bicultural. Even though we may be all black, we have to be biracial. We have to know how to fit in so many different environments, even though the world shouldn't be that way, but that is the case. And then you go to an all-white university. Yes, Earl is saying a culture shock. It is beyond a culture shock. Now you have new shifting to do. And so those black guys and black women who have never been around a multicultural environment, they don't know how to shift. They never had to shift. Now when they get into this environment, how do we expect them to be successful in completing college when they never was around all this mixture? And now we expect them to get along. Now we expect them to blend in. Now we expect them to assimilate. College at a white campus is lonely. Here's another reason why our black males and females, but our black males are not graduating from college. Another major reason for low retention rate is the lack of discipline in time management. Many students who have additional responsibilities, such as athletics, employment, and other extracurricular activities, ironically improve their GPA because they have less discretionary time available. That is true. That is true. See, when you have idle time is the devil's playground. Let me tell you something. People who did not know how to manage their time in college, they were at every frat party, at every campus party, at every event, but they weren't in the classroom. Why? Why? So what am I saying to you guys? For those of us who have children who are going away to college, it's important for us to consider, do we have that child that can go away to college 5, 6, 7, 10 hours away from us and be successful? Or do we have that child that needs to stay close to home? I had a conversation with my daughter the other day, and she said the reason why she thinks she's doing successful, despite the fact that there's always a suicide in her school, told you, Ivy League University, is because we're right across the bridge. We live in Jersey. Her school's in New York City. She goes to Columbia. Whenever she needs us, we have a group text. It's her parents' text. And she'll text all our parents, I need to see you guys this weekend. I miss you. And we're able to just go over into the city and take her out to dinner, take her to a Broadway show, take her out for brunch, whatever the case is, so she can be connected to us. Because it is a hard transition. And she said to me, she is so happy she decided to stay home as opposed to going to Boston or any other university she got accepted to. She said she's so excited she stayed close to home is because it was a hard transition for her. And she said, and she, even though she went to a high school that was racially diverse, she said when you get into college, you see even fewer black people. And it was a hard transition for her. And she's gotten to the point where even though she wasn't able to relate to as many students as she would have liked, What she's learned is she have her parents close to home. She has us right here. We can come to her at any time. She could take the bus across the bridge in New Jersey and then walk the rest of the way to her house and get into her bed and be comfortable. And sometimes kids just need that. And when I started to think about that and started to think about my son who is in college, time management has always been an issue for him. He gets the work done, but by the skin of his teeth. And I think the only reason why my son is extremely successful in high school is because he's one of those kids that just knows the work. You just teach it to him once, he retains it, and he got it. I wasn't one of those kids, but he's one of those kids. But here's the thing. Do I think my son is mature enough to go a distance away from me? I don't. I absolutely don't. So we have to ask ourselves as parents, how much of this are we willing to let them fly? And how much of this are we willing to keep them home so we can at least help them with that transitional process? And I'm not afraid to say I'm far from a helicopter mom. My kids, they know what my rules are and they have their freedom and they should choose to take it. But they also know that when they need me, I'm there. And so when it comes to my son, somebody who's always had headaches in high school, in public school, now he's in a private school, a prep school. They're strict, but they're not how it was in public school. I'll just put it that way. I don't know if he's ready to go away, because I can just see him having a difficult time blending in, a difficult time managing his schedule, a difficult time getting around his campus. You got to know your child, especially if you have a male child. You have to know your son, and you can't be in a position when you worry about what everybody else is saying. Oh, let that boy go. Yes, it's true to some extent, because you want to be a support system for your kids, because college is lonely. It's very lonely when you don't blend in. It's very lonely when you don't have the money to survive, and people just assume it's a home away from home, but kids need money to survive. And if you don't have the time management skills, it's even worse. So this is what Dr. Kunjufu is saying, how some of the reasons why kids do not successfully graduate college. And I just think as parents, we don't properly prepare them for college. We push them. Graduate high school, go to college. That is our narrative, and we stay with it. And I'm not saying that that is wrong, but I'm saying that we have to start doing things differently when it comes to our black boys, because the dropout rate in college for black college students who are males is much higher than it is for females. So something is not right here. And we have to really start thinking about what is happening. See, we think if they get to college, it's a home run. But that whole conspiracy started way before they even got to college. So I would like to see us stop setting our black male children up for failure. Stop pushing them out the nest before they're ready to fly. Yes, make them become men. Make them be responsible. I get that. But we have to still have some level of support for them. And that doesn't mean babying them. That doesn't mean holding their hand. But that does mean recognizing the ego of a man that is fragile, and taking that into consideration when your boy is going off to college. That's all I'm saying. So Dr. Confucius says, I definitely know a conspiracy when I see one. If you live in a world controlled by white men, then the greatest threat to the black men will come from not women, but from men. The best way to destroy the black family is to destroy the black man. This is how we need to think. This needs to be the center of our thinking, because what I'm saying to you guys is, if we don't understand that there's a force that is greater, that's working against us, if we don't understand that, and if we don't start getting strategic, we are forever going to fail our black boys. By the time they become men, it's too late. It's too late. Just imagine if we went through life knowing that there's a conspiracy working against our boys. Just imagine if we had that healthy paranoia. How would we then treat our children? How would we then prepare them? What kind of education would we provide them? I remember somebody said to me, don't you think you're doing too much? I understand educating your children about Black history and all the things that have happened to us, but don't you think like the times are changing? No, you are wrong. Now, I don't even argue with those people. I smile. I say, I'll think about that. And I keep it moving. Do you know why? Because there is a conspiracy that is working against us all the time. And if we don't equip our Black boys, especially with the knowledge, the resources, and the tools they need to be successful, they are going to fail. And I know this is hard for some people to hear, but it is the truth. It is the truth. With my son, I have him watching documentaries. He's reading this book with me. He just watched the Khalif Browder story. I am putting him on to other stories. On Netflix 13, he is watching that. I have to do this. I have to do this because the school system will never teach our Black boys this. Absolutely never. So many of us send our kids to school expecting the school system to educate them. But when they fail them, who do we get mad at? I can't get mad at them because it is not their responsibility to do it. They're going to do the basics and they're going to keep it as general as possible. It is my responsibility to fill in the gaps. It is my responsibility to awaken my son and my daughters. It's my responsibility to awaken their consciousness. It is my responsibility to make sure they are not part of the walking dead. It is my responsibility to make sure that they understand who it is to be a Black male and who it is to be a Black female and why it matters, why it is important. It is my job to have them understand the difference of the ancient civilization of Black people, their scientists, their engineers, their mathematicians. It is my job to make sure I educate that on them because the system will never, ever do it. Never, ever do it. So by the time our Black males get to college, it is too late. It is too late. They have been whitewashed, brainwashed, and put to sleep permanently. Permanently. They don't know how to survive. They don't know how to earn $1. They don't know how to start a business. They don't know how to manage their emotions. And many of them have been emasculated through the school system. And sometimes even through their own homes. It is our job to teach them. So why are we going over this book? Because many of us are asleep. And even if we're not fully asleep, we may be in and out of our sleep. We don't think about these things until somebody brings it to our attention. And that's what this book has done for me, and I hope it is doing for you all. He says, I definitely believe that there is something unfair and unjust in whatever word you want to use. Conspiracy, happenstance, a strange occurrence, for the disproportionate number of African American males that are placed in special education, remedial reading, and suspension. There is something greater going on, and we have to take a look at this because when we fail to take a look at this, it affects the graduation rates in college. Okay? Dr. Jawanza says, I don't like what I see when I witness Black male failure. I think many of us can agree with that. When we witness men, Black men who have failed at being men, Black men who have failed as being fathers, Black men who have failed as being employees, providers, whatever the case is, it's disheartening. It hurts. And us women, we try to be understanding, but many of us have been raised. Many of us have been raised to be strong. No holds barred. We don't care. We don't care. So when we see the Black male failing, we don't look at it through a sympathetic eye. We don't look at it through an empathic eye. We look at it like, come on, man, get it together. I can't be with you. That's how we look at it. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying you have to understand how the female child has been raised in comparison to the male child. There's already a system that is set up against the male child. And then by the time he meets an educated, strong woman who is doing her own, she don't have time to nurture your ego. She don't have time to do it. Right? about driving by the communities, and the teacher he was with was pointing out to him all the black males that used to be star athletes in college. He says, as we drive by, African American males standing on corners who were star athletes. These athletes knew they were going to be going pro and receiving $1 million contracts, but unfortunately did not make it and are now busboys in restaurants and still talking trash on the corner about how they were one step away from becoming a multi-millionaire. Many of our black boys, our black men experience this. Many of our black men have registered into colleges and have failed. Many of our black males have had scholarships and have lost them because they were not able to stay up with the work academically. I met a black male the other day in one of those sneaker stores. I went to go get my son some football cleats when he used to play football. He dropped out. I'm happy. Too smart for that. No offense. But my point is, he saw my son come in, and my son had his high school paraphernalia on his shirt. It said his school name. Now, my son, for those of you guys who follow me on my personal page, y'all know what school my son goes to. ESPN is always at my son's school. Recruiters are always at my son's school. They get people from Brooklyn, New York, Jersey, it doesn't matter, Pennsylvania. People come from all over to go to my son's high school. We have host homes. Host homes are people who are affluent and they open up their house to you when you're an athlete so that you can graduate from the school because they get a lot of money for you to go into the school. Nike is contracted with my son's school. We got a memo that said, we can't tell you what to buy, but we appreciate if you guys are going to buy anything that's sports apparel to make sure it's Nike. They ain't no joke. They know how they move and operate. I can't get mad at them. But the point is, when my son came into the school, the guy that was working there said, oh, you go to that school? So he was like, yeah, I go there. And you know what he said to him? I used to go to blah, blah, blah high school. I said, what happened? He said, I graduated with a football scholarship. Okay, so what happened? Because he's working at the store full time. I'm like, what happened? He said, I dropped out. What happened? He was avoiding the conversation. Of course, I wasn't being this direct with him. You know, I'm a clinician. I'm a therapist. I maneuvered it and I got him talking. He couldn't maintain the grade point average and he lost his scholarship. He could have stayed in school if his mother was able to afford it, but his mother was from a community where they were not able to afford it. I'll tell you the community. They were from Paterson, New Jersey. And if you are familiar with the story, Lean on Me, remember East Side High School and stuff? That's Paterson, New Jersey. Back in the days, but it's still Paterson, New Jersey. Couldn't afford it. So he had to drop out and he started working at this sneaker store. He eventually had a child. Now he has this young kid and he still has aspirations to go back to college. Here you are, 24, 25 years old. I believe he could still go back to college. I really do believe he can. But just to see him tell my son the story, he said to my son, just stay in it. No matter what, this school is going to get hard. Your school is under a lot of pressure. Your school is on the news. Your school got recruiters coming in. If you mention this school in the state of New Jersey, every single body knows this school because it's just that prestigious. And he said, stay in it. And he said to my son, I wish I would have done what your mother is doing for you. I wish I would have stayed focused because he heard me saying to my son, if your grade drops, there's no more football. No more. If you fall below a B average, you're gone. I have a low tolerance for low scores. Football don't mean nothing to me. So he said to my son, I wish my mother would have done for me what I hear your mother doing for you. He was like, you don't know how lucky you are. If I would have had a mother, how you have a mother, I probably would have graduated college. That broke my heart. That broke my heart. Because I said to myself, I didn't have that same narrative when I was in college. When I went to college, I couldn't wait to go away. And maybe because us girls, us ladies, we're raised a lot differently. We're raised to be successful in life. We are raised to be dependent in life. We are raised to compete in life. We are, a lot of us women, not all, but a lot of us raise our children, our daughters, no joke, hands down. Our daughters come out responsible. They're driving, they got jobs, they go to college, they know how to pay bills. If they was to say, Mom, I'm moving out, we won't be scared. We like, you got it, because we taught them everything they need to know. So when I heard this boy say, stay with it, and you're lucky to have a mom like that, it broke my heart. I wanted to cry in the store. Because I'm sitting here asking, what kind of mom did you have? Did they not show up at your college? Did they not give you an allowance so you could be able to survive in college? Did they not provide you a tutor? I don't know about you guys, but my daughter said to me, and she has, when chemistry was getting on her nerves, she's a pre-med student. She's going to be a doctor of anesthesiology. She said, I don't know, Mom. I got to be able to pass this. I don't know what to do. My mommy mode kicked in. We're getting a tutor. In college, I did it for her in high school, and I'll do it for her in college. It just naturally kicked in. But I am that mom. And I also realize there are so many kids that don't have that kind of mom. And it's even less when we're talking about black male children going away to college. We have to stay on top of our boys. We do. And I'm not talking about coddling them. They don't need us to baby them. But even when they get to college, they do need that mom to check them. They do need that dad to check them. But we just assume if they made it to college, they're going to be good. That is a farce. It's not true. It's not true. I love talking to boys and I love talking to men because they tell me the real deal. Just like this boy who told me, if I had a mother like you, I believe I would have finished college. He was on his own. So many of us are not raising our young boys to be men, and then we're sending them off to college as boys and not men. That's a problem. There is a conspiracy out here. And if we don't counter that conspiracy, if we don't put ourselves in a position to be able to fight against this conspiracy, our black boys are going to continue to lose. Because the conspiracy is to destroy the families. And how you destroy the family is through the black male. And that's a problem. So last but not least, and I'm getting out of here, we have to think about Langston Hughes. Many of you guys know who Langston Hughes is. He raises the question in his poem, what happens to a dream deferred? What happens to a dream deferred? What happens? Does it shrivel up and die? What happens to a dream deferred? Too many of our black men have dreams that have been deferred. I said to one of the followers on a book club the other day, well, I think I said it today when I responded to what she said in one of the messages, is old dudes, old cats talk about what they used to do. Young cats talk about what they are doing. And fools talk about what they are going to do. We need more of those men that talk about what they are doing to help our boys to be successful. Unless you're in a corner selling drugs, gang banging and killing people, we don't want you. Not in that way. We want you to heal, but we don't want you to try to mentor our boys while you're broken. We don't want that. But we need more young people and more older guys who are actually making a difference to stand up and be there for the boys. And when you know of a young boy going to college, send them a care package. Give them a phone call. Make sure they're doing okay. Hit them up on Instagram. Hit them up on Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. Make sure that they are there. It's easy for us to forget about them when they're out of sight, out of mind. But we have to make sure we do it. Form a group chat with the boys that you know that's going away to college. Trust me, I am a woman who has a history of helping young boys navigate this system. As a director, as a clinician, as a counselor, as their mentor, I have a history of it. And when you reach out to them, young boys love that. Young boys love that. They need that. They look forward to that. And when you stop, you break their hearts. I get it. I've had young boys punch water fountains down because they felt like they were being left. Especially when I said I was quitting, when I was leaving. I've seen one take materials and slam it down on the floor and break it up. And say to me, every time I turn around, somebody is leaving my life. We are still connected to this day. Because I didn't want to be that one to leave his life. Now, granted, he still does things that piss me off, and he knows anytime I call him, he's already like, all right, Miss Shonna, I know I done messed up. Yeah, you did. But you know what it means to him that I'm still in his life? It means something special. I want to see more of that with all of us. Okay? I love you guys for real. I'll speak to you tomorrow at 9 o'clock p.m. on the Virtual Book Club as we go on to why black men kill black men. Oh God, tomorrow's topic. Y'all just pray for me. Pray that I keep it under wrap because we got to stop the violence. Speak to you guys soon. I love you all. Have a great night.